Prepare to be captivated by the business story of the week, hosted by me, Shaheen Shan. Join us on a journey through the twists and turns of entrepreneurial triumphs and setbacks. Immerse yourself in the narrative and witness the magic that turns dreams into reality. This is Business Story of the Week.
And welcome back, folks. Welcome back to Business Story of the Week. I am your co-host, Joshua, and every day we navigate the world of entrepreneurship. We navigate stories of, we unravel stories of perseverance. We unravel stories of success, innovations, and to inspire you in that next step of your entrepreneurial journey and anywhere else in life in general, actually. And our host today, I feel, we had a short talk before this recorded session right now, and I feel like not only him, but his insight will resonate with all of us today. Ian Hawkins is a renowned international events host. All right, he is a author and business journalist known for his work featured on major platforms such as CBS, Reuters, and BBC World. As the UK's most trusted speaker coach, he empowers individuals to excel in public speaking and presentation skills. Ian's innovative venture, cvtv.co.uk, emerged during his battle with COVID. Like I said, there's a lot of stories and perseverance that I feel we will, resonate with today. He offers tailored short films and coaching services to job seekers, thought leaders, and founders seeking that next success in their career. Ian, it was a pleasure having you on here earlier, having that conversation with you. But thank you for being here right now with the audience and the listeners. How are you doing?
Joshua, what a huge privilege and pleasure to be here. I'm delightful. Thank you.
Oh, fantastic. I must say that it also does feel like a privilege. We're having the UK's most trusted speaker coach. Oh. My goodness. I need to sign up on that as well. All right.
Well, that's it's a publication which you just called me that. And I thought, oh, well, I'll have it. Called Square Mile, big business publication in the UK. And I thought, if you want to print that, I want to tell people. So,
of course. Why not?
Usually I say don't believe your own publicity, but I'll believe that one.
You should. It's not, I don't think it's far off, and, you should own it. We should embrace it. And this is also a call to all our audience and listeners to embrace, their title and, their expertise and their knowledge. Ian, you went from international events hosting to becoming the UK's most trusted speaker coach. It's quite an inspiring journey, I must imagine. I always like to start the show this way, and I'd like to ask is, what is the story of Ian Hawkins? What happened in your childhood, perhaps? We touched a bit on this when the previous, before this recording. What happened in your childhood? What were the pivotal moments throughout your life that led you to being a very effective host and speaker?
I was born with a very serious heart condition. And when I was born, the mortality rate of this heart condition was something like 90%. So you had a 9 in 10 chance of dying if you had this. And I was born at precisely the right time. There's a fantastic doctor, Professor Jane Somerville, and she took on the whole world of cardiology. Used to be this very macho, masculine world where people would go in and say, we're basically plumbers of the human body and we're going to fix the heart. And it's very macho. And nobody wanted to touch these children born with heart disease because these big macho men didn't want to talk to bereaved parents 9 times out of 10. And Jane, who is tougher than all of them, said, well, wait a minute. Why don't I try and if 9 out of 10 of your patients are going to die, you don't have to make too small a change in order to make a big difference. And now, if you're born with my heart condition, your chances of survival are now 9 in 10. So flip that right round. So your chances of dying are 1 in 10. Rather than 9, it's down to 1. And it's all thanks to Jane and her team at the National Heart Hospital in Marylebone. So I spent a lot of my childhood in and out of hospital and having surgery. And one of the things that I couldn't do was go out and play football with all my friends. So if you meet me, Joshua, you will realize that physically I am the most gauche and clumsy person, because when other boys were out learning what three-dimensional space looks like, I had a book or a radio pressed to my ear. And so my whole world is language, reading, writing, radio.
Ian, first of all, shout out to Doctor. What's her name again?
Dr. Jane Somerville. And if you, I tell you what,
Dr.
I'm very lucky. I have a celebrity, I have a celebrity consultant. There's a program over here on the BBC called Desert Island Discs, and the great and the good always go on it. And if you go online, you can download Jane Somerville's episode, and she'll tell you all about her amazing life. She was involved in the first heart transplant in the UK, and she invented pediatric cardiology, of which I am an early beneficiary.
Oh wow! Wow, what a story! And first of all, like you said, you couldn't have chosen a more perfect time to get sick.
Yeah, it gave me a story and a career. What can I say? I'm very happy with it.
Shout out to Dr. Jane Somerville. 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 I invite the audience and listeners to check that out. I'm definitely going to check that out right after this. Ian, your venture into, as an international events host, business journalist and all that, your work has brought you into contact with a lot of prominent figures, I imagine, in entertainment and in sports. Can you share some memorable encounters or lessons, especially lessons that you learned from rubbing shoulders with such diverse personalities?
Sure thing. I started off when I left university, and I did a degree in psychology and criminology, and I was all set to do a PhD, and the money for that fell through, and I was just in the middle of thinking, oh, I'm supposed to be a mild-mannered academic. What am I going to do with my life? And a friend of mine phoned me up. Now, I went to school with him, and he'd done drama at Bristol, and he had just he just signed a contract with the BBC to write a comedy show. And he suddenly thought, well, it's a bit lonely sitting here, me and my blank page. And comedy is the kind of thing you need somebody to bounce ideas off. And he said, can I bounce ideas off you? And I said, of course you can. And between us, we ended up becoming head writers on this radio show for the BBC. After that, I was looking around. The trouble with the BBC is it's all prestige, no money. And I was looking for a job to try and pay the bills. And I sort of sideways went into booking speakers and entertainers for corporate events. Wow. And they said to me in the interview, what would you feel like about working with these people or this person or that person? And I said, well, I've already worked with them because I've written for them. I've done this show, and we always had people coming through the door. And so it was the world of comedy was a very familiar world. And through doing corporate events, obviously you're also in the world of business. And we also work with politicians. So my whole thing with that was that I was always pleased to go into work every morning because you never knew who was going to be on the end of the phone. And one day the phone is ringing, and I can never stand a ringing phone. I snatch up the phone. I say, hello, Ian Hawkins, how can I help? And they say, can I book Mikhail Gorbachev through you? And at the time, Mikhail Gorbachev was alive and well and working on the corporate speaker circuit. And I said, yes, of course you can. His fee will be... And I said the fee, and they didn't blink. And I said, oh, okay, fine. And I thought, blimey, they're serious, aren't they? So I phoned up Mr. Gorbachev's office, and I said, can you do this date? And they said, yes, we can. I said, okay. Wow. We'll need 5 first-class flights from Geneva and a translator. And it worked. And I maintain it was, of all the jobs I did, it was the highest value and the easiest one to do, just because the client wanted it. They had the money. They knew it was going to cost them an arm and a leg. And it all fell into place, I would say arguably easier than a £2,000 person off the telly nobody's ever heard of since. So
Hmm.
that's how I got to work with Gorbachev, and it just came to me not wanting to leave a phone ringing. Interestingly,
Oh,
that job was in Milan,
go ahead.
and if you
Okay.
meet me face to face, Joshua, you'll realise that I am not easily mistaken for an Italian. Okay, I'm short, I'm a bit dumpy, I cannot wear a suit.
Okay.
And I was with these high-powered Italian businessmen that had reached into their pockets and had paid
Hmm.
for Gorbachev
Hmm.
to turn up to their
Hmm.
event, and we were all waiting
Hmm.
to go into this to go and meet Gorbachev, and
Hmm.
the door opens and this enormous security guard comes in and says, you
Uh-huh.
know, Mr. Gorbachev will see you now. And they all go out, tall, thin, willowy, beautiful men, Armani
Hmm.
suits. And we walk up
Hmm.
this long corridor, and gradually, one by one, they fall away. And the door
Hmm.
opens, and I walk through it, and I
Hmm.
put my hand out, and I say, at this point, I sound just like David Frost. I say, hello, Mr. Gorbachev. May I introduce you to? And I turn around, and nobody is behind me. They'd all bottled it. They'd all. He looked at me and he said, "Pull up a chair." We sat there
Oh my
and we
goodness.
waited for all these high-powered Italian businessmen to re-find their bravery and sneak in like naughty schoolboys.
Wow, what a story.
I know.
Ian,
What
first of all,
what what a
go ahead.
strange thing for a comprehensive schoolboy from Essex to have landed in.
Exactly. Exactly. I was going to say that. It felt like it almost there was some bit of serendipity in there. Like you
Hmm.
said, how effortless it felt that it just fell into your lap. But then, you just flew all the way across the globe and to talk to even Italian businessmen are terrified of talking to. How much first of all, how did that feel and how did you overcome that at that very moment?
I am blessed, I think, with having a nice Yiddish word, chutzpah. Okay, it's basically cheek. I, I swear I get it off my dad because my dad was a just he not only could he sell ice cream to Eskimos, he could sell the
Mm-hmm.
insurance for it as well. He was a
Oh
really good
wow.
salesman, and he just knew that people like somebody to be in charge. They don't want to be bossed around, but they
Mm-hmm.
like somebody to take charge. And if somebody else has a legitimate means, legitimate authority, you hand over to them. But
Precisely.
in a situation where nobody's quite sure what's going on, sometimes you do have to put your hand up and say, "Yeah, I'm the boss here, uh,
Yeah.
and I'm going to just be in charge of this moment." And I
Right.
think
I
that
mean,
that's a useful thing for any entrepreneur to have, which is in
of
a
course.
room where people are, not quite
Of
sure
course.
of what's going on. If you can be the lightning rod for stuff and wear your authority quite lightly, I think that's quite a powerful thing.
I agree with that. That was what I was going to say just now because it's such a skill for everyone, not just entrepreneurship, but life in general. It's very important skill in this sense. I love how you pointed out everyone wants someone you know, to have someone in charge. And in that
Mm.
moment, even big personalities, big people, authorities and whatnot, they want someone to, just take charge of the situation. And there's always fear behind that because we don't want to put ourselves in that situation. We're always taking ourselves back. But in the situations where you are needed most, all you have to do is basically step up, right? Wouldn't you say?
Just step up and be there. I do a lot of coaching for people to be
Hmm.
people who have to speak as part of their jobs. So not necessarily
Hmm.
professional speakers, but if you're a founder or a CEO and you have to stand on stage in front of other people, these people often come to
Hmm.
me and say, "Can you give me some pointers?" And very
Yeah.
often, Joshua, do you get stage fright?
Always, every time,
Right.
but it never goes
Okay.
away.
Right. It never goes away. But the reason why people get stage fright is because
Hmm.
when you're on stage, you're in charge. And
Yes.
if you look back into the ancestral environment, okay, you don't have to look back very far. Look back at the kings and queens or leaders of countries. Most of them
Hmm.
have come to a bad end. They've had their heads cut
Yes.
off, or they've been, they've been ousted in a war or something. So we know that being in charge actually comes with all kinds of risks. We feel that deep in our DNA.
Mm-hmm.
And even though you look at a stage and you go, I'm not going to have my head cut off, however badly I go on, on this stage. We feel it. We feel it on this visceral level. But when you understand that, you say, right, you've got to be comfortable taking charge. And that is why that is why I think people are very nervous about being on stage. They don't want to do it. I work with lots of very smart, very clever women who don't like being on stage. And I say that's because everything that you're told about being a woman is to be polite, nice, don't make a fuss.
Yes. Never take a charge.
Actually,
never be in charge.
Yeah. And I always say it's really important that you are comfortable with taking charge, and at the end of it, you get to give the authority back again. You take it,
wow,
you use fantastic. It, enjoy it, and then you give it back again. Because if somebody like me is holding a conference together, my job is to keep the stage nice and clean for the speaker.
Precisely.
Give them the authority for their 20 minutes, hour, or however long they're on, and then at the end, I safely take it back off them, and the audience knows they're in good hands.
Wow, that is what a fantastic perspective. I want to just highlight that a second, because it's okay to take charge at that very moment, and I feel like it's a refreshing perspective for anyone to know that, hey, you're just taking charge, for this moment, and you are giving all back, giving back that authority to your audience, to your listeners, and I feel like that gives everyone courage a bit more when it comes to public speaking. Is it right when I say that there will always be stage fright, right? There will always be that fear, but when you take charge, then you are able to just step into that space and overcome that fear. But the fear never goes away. Is that right?
Yeah. It's just energy. What's happening is you're making adrenaline, and it's giving you energy. It's giving you the whole fight or flight thing. I'm going to say two things. First of all, energy, you can either, if you let it explode and be chaotic, then you're going to be a disaster. But if you control it, you're a rocket. I always love the fact I have quite bad stage fright, because I condense it and I put it into a space, and it makes me a really energetic performer. Okay. The other thing I would say about it is that there's plenty of thrill rides and theme parks in the world, and their business model is giving you that level of excitement. What I'm saying is you can take stage fright, and if you approach it in the right way, you can really enjoy your time on stage, enjoy being the boss, enjoy having that authority. And it just takes a mindset change to go, actually, I'm completely safe. My doctor said to me, "What do you do for a living?" And I told her, I said, "Oh, I'm flying off to Copenhagen tomorrow to do a speech." And she went, "Oh, I couldn't do that." And I said, "What are you talking about? You're a GP. You kill people every day. You have a bad day at work. People die. I have a bad day at work. People don't laugh. Yeah, it's not. Yeah. It's apples and oranges, isn't it?"
But that's a great perspective. So one advice would maybe practice your keynote speaking lines in a roller coaster, perhaps in the park.
There's something about I was co-hosting a day of speaker training with my good friend Nadine Dereza. She's brilliant, and she said, "I don't get stage fright, because if I had stage fright, I couldn't live." And I was like, "I need stage fright, or I can't be effective."
Yes, exactly.
And well, that's the nice thing about me and Nadine, is because we both come at it from slightly different perspectives. And I'd gone off to get a coffee, and I suddenly realized I was a bit late for the next session, and I ran up some steps, and I was standing on stage in front of a group of people, and suddenly I couldn't breathe, because I slightly puffed myself out by running up this flight of stairs quickly to get to it on time. And I was going, "This is fantastic. This is proper stage fright. This is what real stage fright feels like, where you can't get your breath and you can't think, and you're trying to slow everything down." And it was just a reminder of what people go through when they have really bad stage fright. And I thought, I'm going to use this and remember this, because it's often the way that people that are good at something are not very good at training other people. And I like to think that I have made every speaking mistake in the book. If you can do it wrong on stage, I have done it. I have done it really wrong.
Wow. Well, that is why you are the most trusted speaker coach in the UK. And, I want to highlight that a bit, because you said, like, don't they say that if you have fear, you're scared, you're terrified of doing it, that means it's important to you. It's something that you
Hmm.
want to succeed in. You want to be good at it. And this is a perfect segue, Ian, when we talk about like your new venture right now, which is quite innovative, I would say, which is cvtv.co.uk,
Yeah.
where you basically coach, people who want to speak or who have speaking as their jobs, thought leaders perhaps. You include editing in there, you include your tailored short films and whatnot. But before, give us a deep dive into that. But before you get there, you created this while you're hospitalized with COVID in the hospital. You
Yeah.
built this in the hospital Wi-Fi. So tell us a bit about that. But first of all, because you had a rare heart disease first, right? It must have
So I've
been
got a heart
terrifying
condition.
having COVID. Heart
I've
condition.
got
Okay.
I've got a heart
Tell
I've
us
got a
about
heart
that.
condition. It was sort of January, February 2020, and we're all sort of sitting around reading the papers and going, "Oh dear, this strange respiratory illness coming out of China. That sounds bad, doesn't it?
Mhm.
We should do something about that." and then and then sort of the word was, "Oh yeah, it's really only affecting people with prior conditions." I was like, "Yep,
Mm.
that's me. that's oh no, I'm right here." Anyway, and I was working at the time. I was an editor, and at the time, it was at the office where people would come and go all over the world. People would fly in and say, "Oh, I've just been in the Far East. I've just been in America," and you go, "Fantastic. Let's use the same light switches, push the same door handles, and drink from the same
Mhm.
coffee cups." And inevitably, I got sick. I was an early adopter of COVID, as I am with so many new things, and I found myself not being able to get my breath, feeling really ill, going into thinking as I left the office, I thought I'll spend the day in bed. And I thought, no, actually, I should call my GP. And then on my way home, thought I'm going to go to A&E. This feels terrible. Sat there, watched my blood oxygen plummet, and had all these blood tests and things. There's before there was any test for COVID, and they said, "Well, we'll keep you in." And I thought that it was my old heart trouble that come back, and I thought, right, it's probably a valve that's gone wrong. If I'm lucky,
Mhm.
because those are fixable, it could be
Mhm.
endocarditis, which I've had before, which is where your heart swells
Okay.
up. If I'm unlucky,
Mhm.
it's heart failure, which
You're right.
I don't want, but we'll deal with it if it happens. And I thought I'm probably not going to be able to go back to my very demanding 40, 50 hour work week. So
Mhm.
have I become unemployable? And I thought, well, if I am unemployable, the only person that's going to keep the lights on and keep paying the bills is going to be me. I better do
Mhm.
something that plays to the top of my strengths and the top of my abilities, and that I can charge a lot more for doing a lot less work. And I came up with the
Right.
idea of CVTV. So if you are
Mhm.
looking for a job, or you are looking for an investor, or you want to do
Mhm.
some thought leadership, I will interview you just exactly
Mhm.
like this, and then
Mhm.
we'll cut it down, and it will be a 6-7 minute film about you talking about your values, what it is that you want to get across, whether that is why you should be doing this new job, why somebody should invest money in your project, or what you want to do, where you want to take this company, and how to lead people further. And it it just immediately became something that I did. I built a website at 3 o'clock in the morning on hospital Wi-Fi, which
Wow.
if anybody that knows the British hospital system will be surprised. That's still the only thing that really works. But the Wi-Fi is excellent. I built the website, and after a couple of iterations of it, it's now settled down into being this thing that I do. I make videos for people to explain their values.
Well, Ian, first of all, congratulations on setting this up at such a difficult time in your life, a probably terrifying time being hospitalized. But tell me, please, what does CVTV mean? Does it mean COVID TV? I hope not.
No, well, I've misnamed it, and I've sat down. I've had all kinds of thoughts. If anybody can suggest a better name for this company, I am all ears. A CV is curriculum vitae, and it's what in the UK we call a resume. In the States, it's a
Okay.
resume.
Okay.
CV is your CV on TV. I'm showing my age here. I'm such a geriatric millennial. People go, what's a TV? A television. What's television? You know the thing that your parents watch? That's a telly. So it's your CV
We're
on
not.
television.
Well, again, like you said, you've went through a couple iterations. You're open to improving that, but I think you've already laid the groundwork, and I bet you've helped a lot of people already improve their careers, improve their speaking skills, which is what your expertise is in. Ian, as much as I love to keep you around, I want to ask this wrap up question, so to speak, and I
Sure
always
thing.
want to wrap it up in this way. Um, with your venture right now at CVTV, where you help people, come up with that concise, video that presents themselves in the best way, seeking investors, whichever way their purpose is. Your message to a global audience emphasizes, the importance of values, when it comes to predicting future. And I believe this is very ingrained. I imagine this is very ingrained in CVTV.
Mm,
How do you, first of all, how do you integrate this principle into your coaching approach? But how do you see this kind of innovation that you've created now? How do you see it in the future moving forward? How do you think it will change careers moving forward? And
sure.
what are the future aspirations of Ian Hawkins?
Right. Oh, that's a lot of questions there. So I think values are the most important thing. I work with a lot
Mm-hmm.
of entrepreneurs who are pitching their businesses, and they will spend hours and hours and hours working on their projected figures. And we all know,
Mm-hmm.
Joshua, you and I both know that projected figures are a total fiction, that they
Of
will
course.
never respond to reality. But people spend a lot of
Of
time working on
course.
them. And and when you talk to people that invest, they say, we will only invest in a team that we believe in. And people don't
Mm-hmm.
spend enough time talking about who they are, what their values are.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I have great
Mm-hmm.
values, you'll want to work with me. If our values are not
Mm-hmm.
aligned, it doesn't matter how
Mm-hmm.
good the idea is. We're just not going to be a good fit.
Mm-hmm.
We also have AI is coming along, and AI is doing loads of jobs now. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And if we have this idea that robots are going to do jobs that robots can do. That means we
Right.
have to figure out what are the jobs that humans can do. What does human
Yes.
work look like when AI is apparently, writing books and painting pictures and composing music? What does a human job
Mm-hmm.
look like? And the key differentiator is going to be your values. What is it that is in here?
Wow.
Because an AI, it doesn't matter how smart it is, it will not
Right.
have values. When the chips are down, it will not do, it will not behave in a value driven way. So
Of
that's
course.
why I always say your values, if you're having a terrible time, if you are, my father died in January. I've lost work. I've been in financial difficulties. I have to believe that life goes on, that there is still things
Mm-hmm.
that you can do. You cannot change your circumstances, but you can always choose your reaction to them. And if I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have that value, then I wouldn't be sitting here in a very nice flat with the cat sleeping there, and
Mm-hmm.
we wouldn't be having this conversation because I would be doing
Absolutely.
a very dull job that paid me just
Mm-hmm.
enough money to get by and not
Mm-hmm.
not be thriving.
I mean, those values are very important because you
Hmm.
need it. It's your foundation. It keeps you forward. It keeps your vision straight. It's what you
Yeah,
need to, it needs,
your values
in
your
everything
values
that
are
you
a
do.
predict exactly, they're a predictor of your future. Your
Wow.
your whatever line you put on your chart and say, oh, that's my projected figures, that will never be the future. Your values will tell you what your future is. And if your values are that other people don't matter, or you can stab people in the back and shaft them, guess what? You have a back of your own, which will one day have lots of knives sticking out of it, because why should
Wow.
anybody
Yeah,
be why should anyone be
precisely.
loyal to you? But if you put your neck out for your friends, they will put their neck out for you. Simple
Precisely.
reciprocity.
Well,
Hate, I should not have used that word. Reciprocity.
yeah, it makes sense. But I love how you said that if everything falls apart, your figures don't match, you never meet your goals, you can always go back to your values and everything will be fine, because
Uh,
that sets a
yeah,
tone.
yeah. So there's a friend of mine. He's called BJ Cunningham, and he
Mhm.
is his he and his wife had a shoe. Her name's Georgina Goodman, and they were in charge of well, it was their company, and they had a reverse takeover, a hostile reverse takeover, and I read
Oh
about it
my
in the
god.
paper. And it's the Georgina Goodman brand, and they said you can't use your name anymore. I thought, how can you
Mhm.
not use your own name? And I phoned him up. I said, BJ, is everything all right? Are you okay? And he
Mhm.
said, oh yeah, we'll figure something out. They've got
Mhm.
the brand, they've got the logo, they've got the color scheme, but they don't have the talent and they don't have the ideas. In 6 months'
Mhm.
time, they'll be desperately trying to find some new designs and new ideas. We've got new ideas
Mhm.
coming out of our ears.
Yes, it's true.
We're fine. And I'm sure it wasn't quite as plain sailing as he made out, but
Of course.
he knew that the sun was going to come up tomorrow and he was going to have to go to work.
Well, Ian, that is a great reminder for everyone here who, who needs to, who needs a fresh sense of perspective, so to
Hmm.
speak, when it comes to, when you lose your way. And again, I love how you say that sun's coming up tomorrow. It will come up tomorrow every day. And Ian, how does it, now that we're talking about the sun coming up every day into the future, what does the future look like for CVTV and Ian Hawkins?
I'm what I want to do is I want to grow CVTV. I want to try and get some more coaches on board so that we can make more
Mhm.
films for more people. So that
Mhm.
rather than it being like a special thing, oh, here's my nice added extra, which is a URL which you send out with your job application. So it becomes much more of a sort of standard thing where it's more expected,
Right.
and that it becomes available to more people because I only have limited capacity. So the idea is to recruit more coaches and get more
Mhm.
people through the door. That's that. Personally, I've got a plan to start a podcast of my own. You've inspired me, Joshua. my my best mate, his father died a few years ago. My father died
Mhm.
in January. You could not meet two men who are more different. My friend
Mhm.
has always spent his life running away from his father's values. I've spent my life
Mhm.
running towards my father's values, and
Mhm.
I think we're in a really interesting point now. Masculinity has been in crisis for a long time. What does it
Absolutely.
actually mean to be a man? Your father is the most important man in everybody's life. Even if your
Mhm.
dad's not there, your life is in many ways defined by his absence.
Mhm.
So I
Absolutely.
thought, why don't we talk about it? Why don't we get people on who've either got interesting lives or interesting dads? Let's talk about how they've moved
Yes.
towards it, where they moved away from it, what their values have been, and what it means to be a man.
That's fantastic. Ian, we talked a little bit about that before this recording, and I let you know that how much that resonates with me. And it is such an important message to put out there right now. I am optimistic, and I would like the audience and listeners to feel the same sense of optimism that, we have thought leaders and we have people in that space wanting to preach that kind of message that we so severely lack today in the world of masculinity. Ian, I'd like to give you this opportunity. Of course, we already know cvtv.co.uk, but where else can we find you? Where are you most active at? And when is this new podcast coming out, Ian?
Well, I've literally just got my friend waiting to find a date in the diary to record the pilot, and then I'm going to try and find some other
Mhm.
interesting people. And when I've got 6 done, I'm going to start putting them out so that
Oh,
I can keep it
fantastic.
rolling. So if you want to come find me, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm all over LinkedIn,
Okay. All
like a
right.
raincoat in a thunderstorm. Uh,
All right.
Ian R. Hawkins is the URL.
All right, fantastic, ladies and gentlemen, to our audience and listeners, anyone out there in the UK, you know, in the in Europe and anywhere closer, all across the world, looking for that next step in their career, you want to gain that confidence. You want a short film about you. look no further than CVTV and Ian Hawkins. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a pleasure. Ian, thank you so much for your time and your energy. I'll see you around.
I see you, Joshua. You take care.
It's fantastic to all our audience and listeners out there. See you in the next one.
All right, so here's the thing. We try to get a little bit better every day, but we can't do it without you. So if you like the video, make sure to like and subscribe below. And if you have any comments, just leave them in the space under.